Anyone who's been writing on Medium for a few months at least has definitely heard of Sinem Günel. She's had a top writer tag in around 20 topics and has more than 20,000 followers on the platform. She makes a five-figure income just by writing on Medium and has been an entrepreneur since she was 19. In this chat, we'll talk about all the amazing things Sinem has accomplished and her journey of building an empire from scratch. After all, there must be something about the mindset that sets a successful person apart. So let's try to understand the mindset Sinem has nurtured that has made all these amazing accomplishments possible at such a young age. My name is Anangsha Alammyan, and I welcome you all to this live session with Sinem Günel. Hi, Sinem.
Hi.
Thanks for doing this. You've had a great last few days, right? Congrats on your new launch, Personal Growth Base. So, would you
Thank
like to
you.
share, would you like to share a little bit about it and who are the people who can benefit the most from it?
Yeah, sure. So, Personal Growth Base is basically my main business. So, it's a platform dedicated to personal growth in a way that we want to provide insights and information that is really simple to really use in your daily life. So, we really want to make personal development as accessible as possible. And we just launched our first product, which is a goal setting and goal achievement course, essentially. So it's a really big course on basically everything that we've been using in the past years to set goals and actually to create a plan on how to achieve these goals. So we have around 25 worksheet templates inside this course, for example, for really doing monthly reflections, weekly reflections, everything you basically need in order to achieve what you set to your mind.
Oh, I am so sorry. I think I lost you there.
No problem.
Would you just, you were saying you have 25 worksheet templates.
Exactly. So we basically wanted to create a program that helps you really have a kind of guidance throughout the entire year. And that's what we basically created. So really kind of templates, worksheets, exercises that help you not only figure out what you want to achieve, but also, get the motivation back when you lose it, and actually create not only a goal, but a plan on how to achieve it. So that was the whole purpose of the goal achievement masterclass, basically. And I'm actually really proud because I think we did a great job of breaking it down into the most essential pieces of content that you really need in order to get where you want to be.
So it's like anyone can use it if it's a student or somebody who's employed or maybe a self-employed person. It's applicable for every person, right?
Right. Exactly. So that was our goal. So no matter if you're studying for your exams, if you are working on your health and fitness, working on building your side business, it's really personal. So you are creating the whole journey yourself based on what you want to achieve and what's most important to you. But what we always cover in all our coachings, trainings, and products is to have a broad overview of your entire life. So we never want to focus on, finances only or relationships only, because I deeply believe that, you're only fully satisfied if you look at all areas of your life and create the whole picture of everything that's going on. And that's also what we tried to cover in this program, basically.
That's so amazing. I mean, so many people feel lost. I'm sure like it would be very helpful to like, especially in today's times when everything is so difficult, something like a guideline or a checklist would definitely help a lot, right?
Yeah, at least we hope so.
So
So let's see how the feedback is going to be in a few weeks.
that's so nice. So, most people who currently hold a full-time job are terrified to even imagine being self-employed. But you've been an entrepreneur since you were 19. So, do you think there are some mindset shifts that helped you take this decision of not following this conventional way of looking for a job, but deciding to build your own empire?
I think that I had the worst starting point mindset wise to start my own business, because I've always been somebody who really loves security, like, having a fixed income, knowing what I can expect at the end of the month, knowing what to do and how to do it. So that has always been super important for me. And I personally always loved going to school and learning. And looking back, I think I loved school because it was so clear what I had to do, So I just had to do what my teachers told me, and everything was fine, and I had good grades. And entrepreneurship is the exact opposite. So you always have problems and need to find solutions. So for me, that was the worst starting point, because I had to make a huge shift from, somebody telling me what to do, what I love, to suddenly making my own decisions, making wrong decisions. So that's something that was super important for me, the journey to going from, having that fixed schedule, having people telling me what to do, to actually taking the responsibility. But I mean, I've also been lucky, because when I started my business, I've been living with my parents. So I didn't have any fixed costs or any kind of risk. So I think if you are in your full time job and you want to make a shift, or you want to just build something on the side, it's actually great, because you have so many opportunities today that you can start by investing your weekends. You might be able to invest your evenings. And I guess it's really, there are not that many things, so that many businesses that require you to fully give up your job and start a full-time entrepreneurial journey, but you can just start aside as a side business and see how it goes. And once you see that it's profitable, you can then decide whether you want to invest more time into it. And I think that's the most important thing, that most people don't know that they have this opportunity, that they can just invest a few hours in the evening or on the weekend and see how it goes, see if they like it, see if it's profitable.
I think that's a very important thing that you stated, that you don't really need to quit your job right away. You can just start, take baby steps, and then see if it's like sustainable to carry on a long run, right?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, in most cases at the beginning, you don't really know what you're doing. You will learn a lot. You will have to watch a lot of videos, read a lot of books, and you can do that while having a full-time job. So in most cases, and I know so the majority of your audience might also have kids and other duties, but still, if you can spend a few hours per week learning about the topic you want to explore, it's already better than doing nothing. So I think what you said, baby steps, is kind of the key.
Absolutely. So you've had a really great run, right? So I'd just like to ask you that regarding money, did you have some limiting beliefs or misconceptions before that as you have evolved in your journey, now you have given them up and they've helped you achieve even greater heights?
I think there have been so many. So um, I grew up in a family that I always had everything I needed and wanted. So everything I wanted as a child, I received it. I've been lucky because I could travel a lot during school time, etc. But at the same time, I started working, for example, as a waitress when I was 15. So for me, it was always important to have my own money and to be able to manage it. But what was the most important thing this year, for example, is making that shift from what is possible to what you can actually do and achieve. Because if you've always grown up in, in a normal family with normal money, and you didn't have friends that have been, I don't know, rich or privileged, you think of, even if you start your own business, you think of a normal salary or wage that you could earn with your degree or with your formal education. But that's not true, and that's also the main reason you would want to start your own business, because you can scale it at a very quick speed depending on what you do. And that was the case for me this year, to realize that I can have 5-figure months even though I didn't even finish my studies, for example. And if I would finish my studies and go look for a job, I wouldn't be able to make the same amount of money that I make in my business right now, because so many people study the same thing. So I studied business administration. But at some point, if you're doing your own thing, you just realize that there is no limitation, because it's up to you. It's up to you how many people you reach, how many people you influence, and how much value you provide. Because at the end of the day, making money is an exchange of value. You give something and in return you make money, right? And for me, this has been a huge mindset shift, to realize that making 5 figures is not impossible, or it's not that huge if you just have a strategy and follow that strategy with all the ups and downs. But at the same time, I think it's important to mention here, I don't know how it's for you, for example, in India, but a lot of people who see my Medium earnings, etc., they don't take into account that as an entrepreneur, you also pay a lot of taxes, pay a lot of social insurance. So I'm living in Austria, and I have to pay a lot of tax and insurance. So if you see these income reports of people always try to question how much do they really have on their bank account at the end of the day, because we all need to pay these things, especially, I know, for example, in my country it's really high, but I think it's similar in most cases. So just having that realistic outlook is important, in my opinion, because if you see somebody making $10,000 on Medium, it doesn't mean that they have $10,000 on their bank account at the end of the month or year.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Even it's same in India, because you already pay that 15% tax on Medium, and then the money you have to pay your own taxes in your own country, that's almost like 30%, I think. So yeah, that's a very important point, right? So you
Yeah,
have
definitely.
you just talked about that in your school you were used to teachers telling you what to do, right? So but right now there's nobody to set deadlines and tell you exactly what to do. So how do you stay disciplined, or how do you, stick to your goals without having anyone dictate stuff to you?
For me, at this point, I don't really have to discipline myself, because I love what I'm doing. So I would say I love 80 to 90% of what I'm doing. So of course there is stuff that I need to do that I don't like, but I'm really lucky, because 80 to 90% of what I'm doing every day, I really enjoy it. And the only reason I deeply enjoy it is because I know why I'm doing it. So I have a really strong vision for what I want to achieve, but also for why I'm doing this for other people. So um, that's kind of my driver, and I don't need kind of deadlines or a lot of the strategies, for example, in terms of productivity, etc., what I write about, I don't need them, because it feels easy for me to sit down and just do the work, because I know why I'm doing it. And but that has not always been the case. So if you had asked me a year ago, I would have really struggled, because I struggled to find that inner motivation, because I didn't have that why. But in my case, it took me more than 3 years to really be that clear on it. But I would highly suggest anyone like doing kind of journaling exercises, self-reflection, trying to figure out what is your why. And what most people, what is a huge misconception is that a lot of people think that your why needs to be kind of life-changing or world-changing. I don't believe in that. So I believe that your why just needs to be super important for you. You don't have to change the life of millions of people. If you change the life of one person, that's can already be enough, depending on what you do and what you want to achieve. My deepest why is about me and about the life I want to create. And out of that, I can give value to other people. So for me, that's the foundation of everything I do.
That's so amazing what you just said. I just had this wow moment. So, I think there is this quote by Viktor Frankl that says that if you know the why, you can deal with any how. And I think that's very true in this case, that if you have a purpose, you will just feel like it will not even feel like you're doing work. It will just feel like you're doing what you love.
Mm.
We have a comment from Zach Hill who's saying, Sinem is like the biggest motivation for me to write. So it's so amazing that you have all these great people who are influenced by your work. So, and that I think a major part of that is possible because of Medium, right? So let's talk a little bit about Medium. You've been around for a while and you've also worked with a lot of newbie writers in your Medium Writing Academy. So is there something you've noticed that most new people on the platform think they want and it's actually different from what they actually want? Or maybe I can rephrase it and say that what's the most common mistake that new writers on Medium make?
So the first, what you said, what they think they want and what they actually want, maybe from a more technical point, a lot of writers think that they want to get curated. For example, if you start out and you have never been curated, but what they actually want is getting more people to read their work. So, and at the beginning, you don't understand that there's a huge difference because curation doesn't guarantee a lot of views, right? So after a while, you understand it. But at the beginning, everybody is talking about curation, and you think that this is kind of the holy grail. And apart from that, I often see that people actually, when we ask, for example, what is your biggest struggle on Medium right now, a lot of people answer, I don't get views, for example. And that's partly a mindset topic, but the real answer is you don't get views. The real answer is I need feedback on my work because I don't know how to get views. It's always about taking responsibility and trying to influence the part that is in your head because you can never influence the algorithm, you can never influence curation, but you can influence the quality of your articles. And I see that a lot in our group. So when we ask what is your problem, the answer already tells a lot about the person.
I think that's very true. Yeah. So, like you have built this amazing community on Facebook with the MWA Facebook group, and you are so patient with replying to all the questions that so many people ask. I think that's a very important lesson that I learned from you. That it's very important to give back to the community to help out these people who are starting out. So I'd just like to ask you that because of this Facebook group, what are some amazing things that has happened to you? And also, does it get a little overwhelming at times managing such a huge community because you have more than 2,000 people in that group, right?
Um, it can get overwhelming. I think if you don't set your own boundaries, I think I became really good at managing when I look into it and when not. So, for example, sometimes I just delete the Facebook app from my phone because I realized that I'm too much into it, too much, so looking at it all day long. But I just realized that, if somebody has to wait for an answer for a few hours or even 24 hours, it's not that bad because at the end of the day, a lot of other community members are answering questions as well. And I think with Philip and with Amardeep, I have a great kind of team for the group who are really supportive and who really do their best all the time. And the best things that happen is actually when somebody of the community shares their successes. So That's the best feeling if we see that somebody has suddenly way more views or earned much more money, and they are thankful for the community, for answers they received, feedback they received. That's the best thing that can happen. And this doesn't necessarily need to be people who went through my course. So for some people, they just joined the group after they already had some sort of success. So not necessarily people who work with me, but also if they're just part of the community and sharing their successes. That's the most wonderful thing, to be honest. Because I really believe that one person succeeding, no matter if we're talking about Medium or any other kind of business, one person succeeding doesn't mean that somebody else receives less. I believe that we can all grow together. And I think that we have a really great vibe in terms of achieving exactly that and supporting each other together in that Facebook group. So that's something that I'm actually really proud of.
Yeah, that's so amazing because that group is so motivating and so uplifting. It has helped me a lot of times because as a new writer on the platform, you don't know who to ask these questions. But that group, the people are always so willing to help that they just answer all your questions, and it's really amazing. It's such a great gift that you have given to everyone who writes on Medium. So yeah, in your posts, you in your like other posts on Facebook and interviews, you've mentioned several times that you discovered your love for writing because of Medium. And I have read your articles on personal development. There are some articles on spirituality and philosophy, personal finance, even relationships, right? So, what would you say are your favorite topics to write about on Medium or in general?
And generally, everything that is related to personal growth, which for me actually covers all these things. So, as I said, we are always trying to have a more holistic approach in all our programs, and I'm also trying it in my articles to empower people to look at all areas of their lives. So, I think that you can really just be fully happy and satisfied if you don't neglect important parts of your life. So I wouldn't want to, invest a lot into my career and finances, but avoid my health or my family. And that's the key message that I'm always trying to communicate. And as long as I can do that, I'm actually happy to write about different topics and see what resonates most with the audience.
That's so great. And you have also mentioned that a person can write about any topic they wish on Medium as long as they make it valuable for the reader. So, what would you suggest are some tips that a writer can, write for the reader, even if, say, they are writing, say, a personal story or something like that? So, how can they include a takeaway? What are some points they need to keep in mind?
I think there are two things depending on what exactly you write. You either ask yourself, what's one thing a reader can really do after reading your article? Like, do you give some sort of actionable advice? And that can be in many areas. That can be, it can be about productivity, relationships, etc. But it can also be about anything else that you write about. Even if you share a personal story that might be really honest and raw, there might be some sort of lesson in it, because I believe that you only want to write something if you learn something out of that situation, right? But the difficult part is, how do you communicate what you learned? And either ask yourself if there is one takeaway that people could really implement. And if you feel like this is too hard, I feel like the second important thing is, what do you want your readers to feel after reading your article? And that can, for example, mean inspiration, motivation. It can mean that they are, but it can also be kind of negative. It can also mean that they should be angry about something. If you're writing about critical topics and you just want people to, you want them to open their eyes and be more critical about the topic, you might want them to be a little angry or frustrated about how things are right now, so that they want to make a change. That can be something political, that can be, different topics that are basically harder to write about than typical self-improvement. So either I would try to make at least one actionable point that people can really take away, or think more about what should they feel at the end of your article, because emotions at the end of the day also lead to action and lead to us doing something. So if they are emotional about what you've written, they might likely do or want to do something to change the situation.
I think these are very, very important things that you mentioned that like you if you focus on the emotion, what emotion the reader is supposed to feel, then it also gives you a clear guideline of where to go with the article and it will help you also grow as a writer, right?
Yeah.
That's an amazing answer. So, if this is a very tough question, I know, but if somebody were to earn like five figures from Medium and you had to suggest them, so what would be the briefest three-step strategy that you would give them to, make it big on Medium?
I would suggest them to first really analyze the platform and the big writers. I know this is what everybody's saying, but it is so true. And I'm sure you have done the same as well when you started writing on Medium. And one of the biggest problems is a lot of people join the platform and they might be good writers or they might be great writers, but the problem is that it's really hard to say something like I'm a great writer so I deserve success on Medium, because every platform has its own rules, and I'm sure you know that as well because you've written on different platforms, and communicate your message through different platforms and mediums, and you only understand the platform and what makes you successful if you go into it and analyze it, and you need to be really open-minded about that, because most of the things are pretty simple, but still a lot of people don't understand them because they just write what they are used from other platforms or what they think is correct. And the problem is that there are some simple structures, right? Formulas. And if you don't apply them, you will have a really hard time to get curated, to get more views, to get more readers. So really look at the platform as a whole, and try to analyze big writers, try to analyze also comments. Like if you don't have a lot of comments yet, analyze the comments of other people, because that tells a lot about the readers on the platform. And the second most important is probably headlines on Medium, and that's why most people really struggle. And it's also so cliche, but it is also true, because if your headline sucks, nobody will click on the article. So even if the article is amazing, people won't have a chance to read it, because we all are busy and have lots of stuff going on. So we don't scroll through news feeds for hours. We just want to have great content and we want to have it quickly. And headline is your one chance basically to make people click. So I would go really try to figure out headline formulas that work on the platform. Again, you can analyze so much. There are hundreds of thousands of articles that have already been published, right? So you can compare articles, headlines, and everything that is out there to learn. And the third one is probably actually what we talked about earlier. So what do you really want to communicate? So what's the point of an article or of your work in general? Even if you want to process personal stories, you need to have some sort of reason why people should read it as well. And I think you can see that very well in the articles of people who write personal stories and who are really successful on Medium, because there are a few who do that. And if you look at their work, you understand what we mean here, because you can still spark emotions and deliver a lot of value, even if it's from personal experience.
These are great tips. I think most of it is based on analyzing the platform and knowing what works, right? And writing good headlines and knowing what you want to say. Otherwise, there is no point in writing if you don't have a clear goal in mind, right? That's really amazing. So, you have talked a lot about how you can make the most of each minute of the day, right? And your Instagram stories also, you always say how you're never not growing. So, I would like to ask you, how does a normal day in the life of Sinem Günel look like? How do you make the most of each moment?
I think that sounds so extreme. And at the same time, I think sometimes you need to communicate it in that extreme way to just get your message across. I'm not like super optimized. I do waste time and I don't make the most out of every single minute. I just try to minimize the waste of time to a really small amount of my daily time. So, for example, we don't have a TV in our flat. I try to minimize the time I spend on my phone doing mindless stuff. So I can use my phone to do work, but I can also use it to scroll through social media for an hour. And if I do that, then an hour passes by really quickly. So I want to have control over these things. I do take a lot of time for myself. I do take a lot of time for my family, for my community, for friends. But for me, this is not a waste of time. This is actually what life is all about. So taking time for the things you want to do. So I'm not, trying to optimize myself and my business 24 hours, but instead really make time for the things that I think are important. So, for example, a lot of people I know are trying to have more time and sleep less. So I'm sleeping a minimum of 8 hours every night because I just need it. And I think that's the balance you need to create for yourself. So for me, it's important to always have goals in mind and try to move forward, but at the same time, not be like overly perfect with your schedule or try to schedule every 10-15 minutes in your calendar. So I right now my life is not that exciting because of corona. But I mean, I get up, I have my morning routine, and most of the day I spend time working because I'm at home. I don't want to spend too much time outside. So I spend most of my time working right now. And the rest of my day is self-care, basically. Evening routines, morning routines, taking time for reading, taking time for journaling and stuff like that. So I think it always, I think, for example, with Instagram, you need to be really careful when you look at somebody's stories. And even if you look at mine, you just see what I show you, right? So I don't show you that I'm working all the time because it's not exciting. So I'm just showing the stuff that it seems exciting. So always be careful about what you really see and what that this is just a fraction of the daily life of somebody, and it can be really easy to believe that this is their whole life and they're doing this all the time, which is most of the time not true.
Absolutely. And I think it's not possible also, to like make the most of each minute because we are humans, we're not robots. So it's natural that we will definitely waste time. It's not possible to be productive all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for an honest answer. It was really nice. You have given a lot of advice to so many people that has been life changing. So I'd like to know what's that one piece of advice that you received from some person or some book that changed your life or your way of thinking.
I don't know when I've read that for the first time or who said that, but this year, what I realized the most life changing advice is to not accept kind of general advice. There is so much advice, no matter if it's about self improvement or about business, more important, where people act as if there's just one thing that is true or one correct path. And that's really never the case. Like, you cannot ask me what's the best piece of business advice because every business is different, every person is different, and it's just not possible to give advice without knowing your unique situation. And for me, this is super hard, for example, in my articles, because whenever you write something, you know that for some people, this is not true because it cannot be true for everybody, but you're still trying to get the message across. And I think it's super important to be aware of that as a writer, especially as a writer who gives tips and tries to help people, because sometimes it's just not possible to give generalized advice. Even if I try to do it, I know that it's not for 100% of all people. So if you're taking advice, be careful about who is giving it. Like, is that person a credible person? Is that person someone who has achieved what you want to achieve? And when you're giving advice, be aware that, like, if possible, try to understand their position and what their life looks like before, giving general advice. For example, what you mostly hear is some sort of this motivational advice about never give up or always be persistent. It's true that you need to be persistent and you need to keep going, because life is not easy, doing business is not easy. But sometimes it's better to give up, because you might be wasting your time. So it's these general broad types of advice that I would be really careful about. When doing business, when starting your writing career, but also in general when it comes to kind of life advice.
That's a great answer, Sinem. I'm like, there is no one size fits all solution for everyone, right? You need to be very careful and considerate of what that person is going through. So yeah, it was a really great session. I thank you so much for being here, and thanks for all these amazing answers that you gave. I'm sure the people will find it super useful.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
It was all my pleasure. Thanks, Sinem. Bye.
Bye.
So that was Sinem Günel, and we had a really amazing chat. I'll leave links to Sinem's Medium and her personal growth base, as well as her Medium Writing Academy, in the description. So make sure you check them out, because all of them are really valuable resources. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Bye.